Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to dive into a Twitter post or thread. It is about how to become a millionaire. I am a millionaire. I really don't really say that very often. It's still kind of weird. I did become one, I would say, quite recently, since 2020 onward. I'd made a lot of money investing in commodities at the bottom of the oil market. It's mainly and specifically oil stocks that I made a lot of money in, and some of these energy service stocks as well, which I think pushed me well over the edge over there. But I'll go through it and I'll give you my opinions around how I got there, at least, give you the stories of what I did, and go over this thread because I do think there's a lot of good information in it. I wish I did things a little bit different when I was younger. I did everything I could with the information that I had, so I can't fault myself really for anything that I did earlier. So I did things very well. I was pretty smart. I did everything kind of on point. So I can't really, fault myself anywhere when I was younger. Obviously, there's a lot of expenses that I accumulated over the years. I have multiple kids. I purchased a house. I had to do rent. There were certain things that I did that put a lot of strain on the finances over the years. But I was always a saver and always had saved money. So let's get into this. I'll just dive into it. And guys, if you need any help with anything, definitely sign up to the website for the Platinum membership. You can use the word discount. If any of these stories, I guess, if you want to know more about it. So let's dive in here. And obviously you can find me at finding_finance. So this is the thread that I want to talk about. It says 88% of millionaires are self-made. That means anyone reading this can become a millionaire too. If you know what to do, as schools won't really teach you this, let me break it down for you. And he's got some pretty good points here. And he somewhat describes myself. It says, never ever spend more than you make. Building wealth is simple math. Spend more than you earn, and your net worth is only going to go in one direction, down. Earn more than you spend and prioritize increasing that gap as much as possible. Invest the difference in assets. I very much did this. I went to school. I went to college. I did get some help from my parents getting through school. I did pay a lot of it myself as well. I went to an out-of-state school and I got in-state residence my second year, so I was paying in-state tuition my second year onward. And you have to basically stay there for a year and declare your independence. I did all of that, and I got in-state tuition, and the tuition difference was quite dramatic. So I only paid 1 year out of state. After that, I had engineering jobs, and I worked through college. I worked at a restaurant, and I bussed tables and was a waiter for a little bit. And I did that and worked my butt off. There was a summer I worked every single day of the entire summer almost, including weekends. And I worked through that, and I'm a saver at heart. I find genuine happiness in, I would say, saving and investing. Like so growing up, I used to collect. Here, I'll come back in here, guys. I used to go around for Halloween and collect candy, and I would collect all this candy, and I would never really eat much of it. I'd eat a little bit, but I wouldn't really eat too much of it. I don't know if it's just because I like to save things, or I didn't like chocolate that much. I don't know, but I didn't really eat that much. So from a very little kid, I was always a saver. I used to save, and I do work even when I was like 15 years old. I'd work doing like, I used to be a hockey ref. I used to also be I'd put the lines down on the fields for baseball fields in the summer, and I would save all my money. So I would save, invest. When I got older, I would just invest it all. And I didn't really find happiness in spending it that much. I find happiness in spending it on the small niche things that I really like, but I'm not a guy that that really cares to be a status person or a show off. I think that I don't know. I'm actually the exact opposite of that. I don't want a Lamborghini. I don't want a Ferrari. I don't want those things that are showy. Um, I can buy things because, I also value engineering, but I look at things from an engineering perspective and from I'll say it, a value perspective so much that I just don't, I'm not drawn to those items. I have been in those items. I have dated girls that hung out with people that had all those items. And I just never really fit in that well. I'm just not cut from that end of the bread, or however you want to call it. So I always, I don't know. And I've ridden in cars, and in all honesty, it's, I guess I'm just a Mazda rotary guy when it comes down to it. But let's get back to this. It says, and your net worth over time will compound beautifully. If your current income is not enough to achieve this, consider starting a side hustle. Something as simple as affiliate marketing can bring in a few $100s extra every week and won't cost much to start. Here's another thing. He says compounding beautifully. A lot of people, when they think about compounding, they think like 10% a year, 20% a year, and then they blow it out for a long period of time. What I did is I want to compound things much more quickly than that. 100 to, like 50% or 20% or something in that lines of 20 to 50% per year or greater. And really what you need to do is you need to have the cojones to basically go big when everyone is super fearful. That's where you make all the money. And you do it through the 3 pillars that I created, which is technical analysis, ratio investing, and market conditions. You're looking for inflection points in those market conditions where the ratios go way out of balance, so you know where all that money is and isn't. That's where you get your compounding at a much quicker rate, is you're invested in the right sectors at the right times with the right amount of money and allocation with the gigantic asymmetric bet. That is all investing is about. And the best investors are the ones that continually identify where the value is in the market, where the money is not, and the market conditions are going to be ripe for those to continue to work. That is all of investing. So it says, stay out of debt. In today's world, debt seems to be a normal part of everyone's life. Bottom line, paying more to borrow someone else's money will make you poorer. There are only 2 situations in which you should borrow. And I don't have any debt outside of some debt that I have on the mortgage of the house I own. That is it. I never racked up debt ever in my life. So I would definitely say that you want to stay out of debt. Now, debt is, you pay that back with an interest rate which is going in the opposite direction. So the interest is being earned by the person who lent that money out, and you don't want to be the person lending the money. You want that interest rate to compound for you, not against you. So staying out of debt is very much important. It says to survive. So this is when he says when you should borrow to survive as an absolute last resort. When you'll earn more on what you're financing than you will be charged in interest. Unless it's going to make you richer, don't do it. I go one step further and track my debts monthly to keep on top of them. So here's his total debt. It says, be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. This famous quote from Mr. Buffett is timeless and absolutely key when it comes to multiplying your wealth in a stock market. Bottom line, you get richer by buying when no one else will. Totally agree with that. Now, the question is, when is the right time to purchase? Generally speaking, it's when the ratios go to one side and become drastically cheap. Sometimes those ratios reverse quickly. Other times those ratios take many years to reverse. Those ratios tell us where the money is and isn't. So it's an asset versus asset. One gets expensive, one gets cheap, and the money's not here, it's over here. That's the whole point of ratios. You can tell and identify where money is at, And you can also tell and identify what market conditions we are under. And when you chart them together, you can see how they're rotating against each other, how they're basically gaining or losing value against each other. That is how you, one, recognize the value, two, monitor the progress of it and where the market conditions are telling you where you're at. And that is imperative to becoming wealthy. A lot of people, I think, are very impatient. They don't have the patience to wait it out in some of these investments. That's something you're going to have to learn if you want to be in this game. It says, buy when everyone is freaking out about high unemployment, interest rates, and the market is tanking. The cyclical nature of the economy ensures bad times will occur, and human nature ensures that when they do, people will panic and sell at a loss to build wealth. Now, when he talks about high unemployment, interest rates, and the market is tanking, what he is describing is a market condition. That market condition is when you have a commodity bull market and or generally when these things link up with the housing market with a credit expansion phase. That credit expansion phase, the symptoms of that phase is high unemployment, interest rates, and the market is peaking and rolling over to tank. So that is when you want to be invested in commodities, is when we're in an expansionary credit phase. Now, it's not one smooth bottom to the top. Sometimes in the beginning, when these things start to rotate, interest rates kind of pile on to the upside. It slows everything down, and sometimes you get a slowdown in the beginning of an expansionary phase of real estate. In fact, in that 18-year cycle, they even talk about the mid, we'll call it, they call it the little pullback that you get in the beginning of an expansionary phase. They call it a mid-cycle wobble. So it wobbles in the mid-cycle, and then we go back up. That wobble, I think, is from the markets digesting the increasing interest rates in the market. Then what happens is they come back down. Now, here's the problem there. Powell knows this, I think. That's why Powell is saying that interest rates are going to have to stay up longer than what they might be up for a year or two. That might be the case because if they go and they fall back down, whenever they do fall back down, even if it's a year or two from now, inflation will come back because you've got the demographic wanting to buy homes, and when those interest rates come back, the affordability of the homes goes up. So he's kind of in this catch-22 where he's screwed if he does, screwed if he doesn't, because if he leaves them high, he has problems with paying the debt. So that is the cycle, though. That is the cycle, and to know that cycle is how you make money, because then you know where to invest during that cycle. You know about high unemployment, interest rates, and the market is tanking. That all is interconnected. It is a function of market conditions, and it is a function of a sell-off of the market generally. But it is harder to time than what most people think. It says you must learn to see these downturns as your opportunity. If you truly think the world is going to end, you have bigger things to worry about than money. Go buy some tin food and a weapon. If it's not that bad, buy stocks and hold. And this is knowing the cycle and how to invest and where to invest in that cycle is where your compounding can go up dramatically. You're not investing in downturns for certain asset classes. You're always going to be connecting up, upward movements in the cycle. They still take a long time, though. We just came from a really big stock market cycle from 2009 all the way till, I'd say, 2021, 2020, somewhere in that range, depending on what assets. But I would have invested 2020 in the commodity cycle. Commodities, I think, will be good for the next 10 years or so from 2020. So 2020 to 2030. It says, looking rich is not being wealthy. Most people who are really wealthy often don't look like it. They don't need to. Bottom line, funneling your investable cash into shiny objects and designer clothes might make you look rich now, but will stop becoming really wealthy later. And that's really what you're trying to balance here is the way that I view it is, what is the delta? What's the difference between me buying a cheap, a cheap shirt versus an expensive shirt? What's the difference between me driving a Mercedes and a very low end, we'll say a economy car? There's no difference. Outside of, you could justify buying a slightly larger car for safety. But outside of that, I don't really see the justification to buy something that is highly expensive to show someone else that you are either wealthy or status or well off or whatever. I don't get it. So I actually live just like this person is saying. I don't look rich. Some people would probably say I drive a clown car still, and I just don't care. Just doesn't matter. Um, Freedom is the ability to not care what other people think about you. That is what freedom is. That is true freedom. True freedom is releasing the chains and the, I'll say the, trying to think of the right word, the expectations and the influence that society puts on you. And what I do is I just cut it all off. I'm completely free from all of that. Do I buy cheap clothes? I don't think so. I think I buy very high quality stuff. I just don't care to project that status out there. When I hung out with people that had a lot of money, they did buy a lot of that stuff. One of them said, so I was out in LA a long time ago. We went to a club and he got like the bottle service and we had all this stuff in the corner. And I was like, guys, I can't pay for this. I'm in college. I can't afford this. And they're like, don't worry about it. And I was like, well, I feel really bad about, not being able to pay for this. Like, I literally cannot pay for this. This is going to be thousands of dollars. The guy looked at me and said, look, would you buy this for 10 cents? And I said, yeah, probably. It's 10 cents. He goes, that is $10,000 to me. $10,000 to me is 10 cents. And I was like, all right, I get it now. Oh, all right, cool. So that's one thing that, and I still didn't like it because I don't like other people paying for me. I just did not like that. But it made sense to me the way that he put it. And I did see his house and I did see the cars he had, and it was definitely believable. So that is one thing, a little story there. It says, live for today, but invest like you'll live forever. It's true. You never know what tomorrow will bring. So live for today, but also put something aside so you can continue making the most of the many more tomorrows to come. You won't regret it. The only thing I'll say about some of this is be careful on saving too much. And I know that seems a little bit weird, but you still have to make memories when you're younger. When you're young, you've got tons of energy. You can just go for days. You can obviously move a person's apartment in one morning, work out midday, and then go party at night all in the same day. I don't think 50-year-olds can do that as easily. I'll just put it that way. So there is something that is limited, and it's the time that you have when you're young. So that is something that is extremely valuable, that when you create memories when you're young, you may not be able to recreate those things as easily when you're older because of the energy and the motivation and the willingness to just keep going. That could include, climbing a 14 or something like that. A 60-year-old versus, and you can still do it when you're older. I'm just saying you might not be able to do it as easily. You might not be able to experience it the same way, that type of stuff. So keep that in mind when you're young is, some of the things that you are going to do, you might not be able to experience it the same way as when you get older. It says, the 6 ways of getting rich: marry money, inherit money, exploit a unique talent, get really lucky, own or lead a successful business, spend less than you make, and invest the difference over the long term. Make number 6 a constant and you'll do well. I do agree with that. And I had the opportunity to actually marry into money, and I just couldn't do it. The person was not the right fit. I'll just say that. I didn't know it at the time, though. I did not know it at the time. But over time, I did realize that because I was very young, and it was one of my earlier relationships. So, but I did figure that out, and I learned that. But I do agree with everything he's saying here, definitely. It says, taking no risk is the biggest risk of all. Nothing worthwhile in life ever comes from being risk averse. When it comes to money, the same rule applies. To multiply your money, you need to invest in things that can go down as well as up. The trick is to take measured risks. So that's basically the entire channel that I set up here, and that's exactly what I teach on redefining-value.com. We're buying things that are down. We're using technical analysis to identify it. We're using ratios to determine what sectors are down a lot. And that is basically giving you the asymmetric bet. The symmetry there is big upside with smaller downside risk. It's better to have a 50% loss possibility with a 10x plus upside potential. That's the symmetry that you get. That's how you want to enter your investments. And sometimes as things go up and they move, your risk reward changes with that investment. Some investments can go up and actually become less risky at the same time because you bought it at a high risk opportunity. They're making more money, they're paying off debt, the risk is declining, and their upside is still very good. So you want to stay invested potentially in that investment because the risk is declining and the upside potential is still very good. Let's say it still has a 5 or 10x upside potential and the risk really got a lot lower given the debt that they paid off. So he is very true in about taking risk and putting in asymmetric bets. Another thing that I should have done looking backwards is I should have bought a house earlier in my life and rented less. I think that would have benefited me. And I understand the scenario where housing was very cheap when I was younger, though. In the 2010s, 2009, 10, 11, 12, housing was very cheap at that time. The affordability was incredibly good. And I didn't really follow or track the housing market at all. So one of the things that you want to do if you want to acquire and be very wealthy is you need to understand the housing market inside and out, and how interest rates work and loans and all that stuff, because that is the largest purchase for most people in their life. And buying a house and getting a good deal and getting a good interest rate and doing all of those things is very important to building wealth. The difference in payments in your house could vary widely depending on when you purchase the house and the interest rate. And I know right now the affordability is really bad. I understand that. But that is my kind of looking backwards, and what I could have improved on even better is bought a larger house earlier and held on to it with a very low interest rate. And I still have a house, I still have a low interest rate, have all that stuff, but I could have bought even a better house if I bought it a little bit earlier, a few years earlier. You do this by mitigating the risks that you face. Example, stocks may go down in the short term, but if you mitigate this risk by doing your research, buying right, and holding for the long term, your chances of a positive return grow every day. I agree. And that's exactly what we talk about on this channel is trying to identify where the value is in the market and then holding on for the long term. It says, take responsibility for yourself. Money isn't brain surgery. In the literal sense, if you need brain surgery, you have little choice but to hand over your trust to the surgeon. With your money, though, don't ever turn over complete control to anyone. You can figure it out. And I agree. I completely agree. And whether it's, my website or some other person's website, go find someone that you click with. Go find someone that you want to learn from, sign up and learn, apply it, try it. If things don't work, refine it. That's what I did. And it's worked out pretty well for me. And I think I've gotten all of the most important things that I've learned in the markets all kind of laid out. And if you kind of just see how I set things up, it may take some time, it may take some months, may even take a year or two. Once you start seeing how things work, you got that process down, then you repeat the process over and over and over. Things over time, you're going to have to iron out your emotions. You're going to have to iron out yourself. You're going to have to change the way that you look at things to the game that is being played. That's just the way the game is. At least that's how I did it. It says, whether you want to learn about debt elimination, investing, or anything else money related, there are online resources everywhere that can help you. See the link in my bio for resources. It says sometimes less is more, particularly when it comes to information regarding stocks, the market, and the wider economy. If you're always listening to spectators and reacting to pundits and short-term market fluctuations, you'll end up selling before you should. Well, totally. That's why I developed the 3 pillars, how we monitor things with ratios. And if you notice, I just buy and hold. I sit in it long term and sit. A lot of people can't do that. I don't know why, but a lot of people can't do that. It says, instead, buy into high quality stocks and hold them for the long term. The only reason to sell is when the fundamentals on which your bullish thesis was based on break down, not because the stock dropped 20% that day. Bottom line, ignore the noise. And I'll just say this, it takes a lot of experience and a lot of courage of your convictions to do exactly what he's saying. It is hard to do that. I can help you. You still have to do it yourself and learn. It's hard to do that. It says money is time, not the other way around. Time is the one non-renewable resource you have. So you want to spend as much of the time you have doing the things you want to do rather than spending all your time working for other people doing stuff you have to do. Totally agree with that. Totally agree. It says money is the resource that will enable you to do this. Everything you buy has an opportunity cost. Buy a 200 pair of jeans and that $200 you could have invested. Compounded at 12% for 30 years in the stock market, that could have become $6,000. Why does this matter? Now, what he's describing here, I just want to let you guys know, that is how I view everything. I view absolutely everything in what he just said right there. Everything in my life. Why? Well, do I really need this? I am literally trading time for this thing. Status, Ferrari, Lamborghini, trading my time, trading later in life. I have to work longer and get this thing. And that's exactly how I view it. 100% how I view the entire thing. And why I'm trying to say this here is how I view everything. It says ignoring inflation and assuming you can live on $3,000 a month, those clothes have cost you 2 months of early retirement. Make conscious decisions with your long-term goals in mind and avoid unnecessary expenses that don't add value. Bottom line, stuff today or time tomorrow. Completely and utterly agree. Now, this can be dangerous though, because I don't spend much money at all. I mean, at all. And it's not because I'm cheap. I buy good stuff when I buy stuff. I buy things that I really like. I just don't want to spend. I am changing slowly. As you get more money, you do change. But I viewed my entire life through the lens of what he's just describing here. I've always said, do I really need this? Now, I bought stuff, guys. I didn't buy nothing. You know, when I played softball, I had the best bat. I had 2 bats. Mike and MV1s is what they are. MV1 Supermax. And I'd hit bombs with those things, man. Pretty dang good in baseball. But I mean, I bought good stuff. I played hockey as well. I did all that stuff, and it is all very expensive. But those are the things that I valued, and that's where I spent my money. I did not buy expensive cars. I did not buy expensive clothes or expensive whatever else there is. That's what I bought, and it wasn't that expensive when you start, adding stuff up. So that is the view I looked at. It says those who choose the latter will be millionaires of tomorrow. The choice is yours. So I completely agree with everything he basically said here. I view everything through time. I want more time in the back end. But the question I'm asking myself now is, am I trading better years for worse years with just more money? The quote that comes to mind is, all of the older millionaires will trade all their money to be 20 again. But all the 20-year-olds would want, they want to become millionaires. So you got this loop here where you've got everybody who's old that wants to be 20 again and broke. And you got all the broke 20-year-olds that want to be millionaires. So you're going to have to dance on that line to figure out what works for you. Being 20 is awesome. Being 21, being 22. I know some people don't like their 20s, but I enjoyed them a ton. And I did a lot of really cool things. I played lots of softball. I worked out like a madman. I had lots of fun, hung out with lots of friends, was totally free to do whatever the heck I want. Went to college in my early 20s is when I graduated, and I did a lot of fun stuff. Had a lot of fun time. And I think I did everything about as right as I could, looking backwards. Um, and obviously, with time, you're going to accumulate wealth, and you're going to get wealthier and wealthier and wealthier if that's what you focus on. I'll just say this: your whole life will pivot around the things that you focus on. If you want to focus on becoming a millionaire and then you focus on investing, you'll become better at investing if you really focus on it and put time at it. If you focus on your job and your career, well, that's where you're going to get your returns from, your job and your career, if that's what you want to focus on. If you want to focus on your hobby, then maybe that's what you get great enjoyment out of, focusing on a hobby. Everything in your life is going to revolve around what you put your focus on. And some people who meander through life and don't focus on anything, those are the ones that get kind of, I think, dissatisfied with life. To some extent, everyone can be a little bit dissatisfied. I understand that. And I just want to go through this thread, kind of, showing you kind of how I did stuff. Maybe it's not the right path for you, but that's how I did it. And I think there's a lot of truth to what this person has said in this thread on here on Twitter. Hopefully you enjoyed the comments, guys. Give me a thumb up for the content. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like. Subscribe to the website if you agree with all this. Go ahead and join our community. Let's be millionaires together. Screw it. But that's what I've got. We'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.